This is Jeff Spieler, Tech Agronomist with DeKalb and Asgrow in South Dakota. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what the impact this drought is having on our corn, and more specifically the roots, nutrient uptake, and so on underneath them. Okay, so I'm in a field here with a lot of variability. I'm in between two rows here that look considerably different. The one right here is, more what I would consider should be looking at this stage. The one on my right's, much more stunted, a little bit more pale, and so on. We'll talk a little about why that is, but looking at the two plants here from each row, this one you can tell has a much better root mass underneath it. This one here, much smaller root mass, okay? And it's going to be a little bit opposite what we typically tell you. So the difference here would be the one on this side, has a wheel track going right next to it. And in a conventional field like this, just that little bit more compaction of that soil, we're getting better root to soil contact, right? So that's really the difference we're seeing in a lot of these fields. The difference between stunted corn and better looking corn is just that the soil, it's a little more firm. We never got that rain that firmed up that soil. So just them slight differences in wheel tracks make a big difference, specifically potassium. So we're seeing a lot of potassium deficiency, which, makes those plants shorter, shorter internodes, a little bit more stunted looking, and obviously the necrotic leaf margins. You may not be able to see this that well on these, but on the lower leaves, these plants, you're gonna see that much more necrotic edge to that leaf, okay? And that's going to be a pretty good indication of potassium deficiency. Also though, just in general, we're seeing a fair amount of sulfur as well. These leaves are rolling up pretty good, but if you can see there, you get that pale look, that interveinal pale look in between those, on those leaves. That's going to be a pretty good indication of sulfur deficiency as well. So we're seeing a little bit of both. It's going to be expected. Really nothing to correct that yet until we start to see that rain come. Firm up that soil, moisten up that soil so we can get that better root growth, to improve that. The other thing we're seeing a fair amount of is rootless corn syndrome, so that's going to look a little bit more like this. If you start seeing some of your corn lean a little bit, you may want to do some digging to figure out what that is. Essentially we see that normally on a wet spring when we plant and we don't close that furrow real well in a wet conditions, and then we get hot and dry, and then we have that air down in that furrow and we don't get good root growth. This year it's a little bit it's a little bit different in the sense that the soil was really loose, mellow, dry when we planted. And now we've got these really high temperatures in the soils, loose soil. We're still not seeing that good nodal root growth. Specifically on the later planted corn is the ones to watch out more so, but we're just not seeing that those nodal roots that are supposed to be, exploring that soil are just not growing like they should be, just because there is no moisture in that topsoil and the soil temperatures are so high. So if you're seeing that corn tip over a little bit, we call it floppy corn, just go out, do some dig, and look and see what those nodal roots like underneath there. But there again, some of these nutrient deficiencies we're probably seeing more severely in no-till scenarios, but that's not always the case. Like I said, I'm in a conventional till field here right now, and just those slight differences in how firm that soil is underneath makes a big difference. So if you're seeing that variability, go out, get a spade, and take a look. That's all we had today. Thanks.